What's up everybody, and welcome back to part 3 of making this King Vamp Playboy Carti animation. If you haven't seen our previous episode, we started making the castle, pretty much got it all completely done. There's a little bit more that I added in this video, but to start off, I brought in a book from BlenderKit. It's kind of like cool looking like spell sort of book thing. And that's going to come in handy a little bit later. We're going to be animating this, as well as I ended up kind of separating like the middle pages. Not really separating them, more like deleting the faces that were in the middle of the book, and set up a shape key so that it kind of opens up. And the idea behind this is that as the bat flies towards the book, like the gates are going to open, the bat's going to go through the gates, and the book is going to open with like a flame in the middle. I put the animation in the previous videos if you want to go back and see what that looks. Actually, I'll just put it right here so you guys get a better look at what I'm trying to say here. So that's pretty much what we started with today. I also ended up adding like this little room sort of ordeal in the middle tier of the castle cake sort of thing, whatever you want to call it, like the middle level. Yes, it was the middle level. I don't know why I was second guessing myself right there. But basically there's no real point to this room. It's just going to be the podium of the spell book, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing that special to it. Now originally the room was open more, like I did have a more open area room, and I was gonna put like more artifacts, kind of like I did up in the tower. Again, I'm just trying to be conscious of like vertice count, because again, some of these BlenderKit assets or assets that you get from other places will just be flooded with vertices, and that's totally fine, except if your PC can't handle it. So moving on from like the book and spell room, because we're gonna actually like set up the animation for that when I get like the bat timing and stuff all good. But right now we just kind of have a floating castle, and an idea that I had for this castle was to kind of have one of those like archway, rocky mountain sort of things, like the castle's on like the edge of a cliff. It's like scary, spooky little trail sort of thing going up to it. So that's basically what I wanted to do in like a very basic kind of low poly-ish way. So I went ahead and got like the mountain going a little bit. Not a mountain, like cliff, I guess, and walkway. Because, I mean, you guys have seen the animation. The bat flies through the woods up the trail to the castle. Once I was generally happy with the shape that I had going for like the cliff walkway sort of thing, it was time to texture paint. Now, first off, I apologize for the phallicness looking from the top view of this thing, but you'll make it through, we'll get through it. But basically, I just wanted some sort of like dark, almost foresty dirt path sort of looking thing. Nothing like too crazy to make. I just put obviously the base gradient down to get like that nice dark bluish color, and then I added like that green, I don't even know what color to call that weird green army sort of looking groundish color, and then just kind of mapped out like my main walkway, and then kind of just brushed over everything to kind of blend everything in, all just to lose the texture paint, just like I did with the wings when I appended in the bats. It's alright, it just gave me more practice, so I ended up having to redo it. It's pretty much the same, so I didn't put both parts in here. Okay, so for the bats, I've been trying to save time when I work on these projects as much as possible. I'm not really trying to cut corners that don't need to be cut, but at the same time, I realized that I really didn't need to model like a full bat sort of thing all over again. Would have been great practice and that sort of thing, but a little bit more time consuming than needed, because I would have to rig up an armature, that sort of thing. But I was just thinking that from one of my previous creations, I had some frogs that I made, and I figured that would probably work pretty good for like a weird looking bat. Like, it's not going to be exactly a bat, just like some weird looking thing, creature thing, bat thing, I don't know. So I went ahead and brought in the frogs. The armature's already hooked up, and we're all good for that. Basically, I just took the wings off of Carti, made them smaller, and I think a little bit narrower maybe. Just changed it up just a tiny bit. They're the same thing. And attached them to the frog. Then I changed the frog texture paint to match the wings a little bit more. But now we have bats. Moving forward from the bats, I went back to kind of working on our little environment, I guess you could say. Added a few more details to the castle just as I was looking around, so I can indent a few different places. And I also ended up beveling the corners of like the book pedestal, just give it a little bit of a different look. After that, I ended up moving some of the trees around to set up kind of our flight path of where the bat is going to fly through for our opening scene. Now, something that I would like some feedback on or not, I ended up bringing in some fog, which was also actually from a previous project. same one that the frogs were in actually. And I thought it'd be cool to have like the bat flying through the fog. You can kind of see like the silhouette of the castle in the background, and as it gets closer, the fog gets less and less dense, and then eventually, you know, you could just see the castle outright. Now, I liked how it looked, and looking back in the recording, I kind of like how the green fog kind of looks a little bit, but I ended up switching it to like this pinkish kind of fog. At one point, I oversaturated this whole project with red, so that's kind of where I ended up with on that, and I ended up removing the fog completely. But I might add it back in if I feel like I need to. Once I got that kind of set up and the trees in a decent spot where I thought they, where I wouldn't need to move them very much if I needed to, it was time to actually fully animate the bat now. The first thing I did was look up reference on like a bat flying. Obviously in my head I know like, well, I thought I knew how like wings flapped, and I was pretty spot on, but it just helps to see different points of interest of the bat flying. So all the way at the top of the flap, and then, you know, as it flaps down all the way to the end, just to see where the wings end up is pretty much where I was going for there. So brought those in, and once I got the wings flapping on my bat, and I was pretty happy with it, I realized that just in other movies and stuff I've seen, the feet are always like dangling a little bit, or they got movement. Obviously your body, or like a bat's body, animal's body, whatever, isn't going to be remaining still just because the wings are flapping. The whole body's going to move. It's just like a walk sequence with the humans. I realized that, you know, you got to move the shoulders a little bit, and, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just opposite arm, opposite leg, forward and backwards. Alrighty, so I want to take one quick step backwards here to show the actual first step that I took while animating this. You may have caught on to it already, may have not, because I didn't really express or explain it properly. But basically the first step that I did was I set my bat at my starting point. Basically I wasn't worried about like the up and down sort of thing, like as we can see it kind of goes down and stuff and then back up the steps, but I wasn't worried about that at the beginning. So I just started from point A and then went to, I think like 200 was the first one that I did before I switched it, and then just put the bat at point B. Computer froze right here, sorry. But we basically put it at point B just to get our like starting or our timing right. So from point A to point B, I obviously didn't want him flying like a freaking F-18 fighter jet through this. It's just not right. But I didn't want him so slow that it looked like not right. Sorry, my choice of words. Also, I keep getting this like texture glitch here with the flames. I don't know what that's all about. Just make sure that, yeah, they're not there this time. One time they were actually there, but anyways. So that was the first step, point A to point B, get that timing right. And then I tried with this bat right here with it moving initially to animate the wings, and it was just, it just wasn't right because the bat isn't perfectly on our axis, like our global axis, whatever this is called. So getting everything to rotate properly how I wanted it was not easy with that bat. So what I did was, let me just move this mountain. Let me see if it's still here. I duplicated that bat, removed all the keyframes just so it was in place. And that was what you guys saw me animating, is I animated the bat while it was in place. Then I took those keyframes from like the flapping wings and then selected our wings in pose mode, and then just copy and pasted. I think it was like a sequence of like 4 or 5, and then it resets and then resets. And then a note here, I had our bat flapping quicker through here, like through the trees, and then I just broke it up a little bit just to give it some variation in the flapping, just a little bit, nothing too crazy, but I didn't want it to be the same like constant flap speed for the entire thing. So now as for the camera setup, this took me a little bit to figure out here because my initial plan was to have the bat fly up to the gates, the camera continue to the book like it does in the animation I've been showing, but the bat like fly up and away. So like right about here, or maybe after the gate, bat, boom, flies up and away, and the camera would keep going. Now, I couldn't quite figure that out. I think part of the problem was definitely that I have the camera parented to this empty, which that's not a problem, but the empty is parented to the bat. So when I set up my constraints for the camera, I have two camera constraints set up, or I did at one point. Let me see if I still have them both set up. But basically, there's a camera and an empty on this bat, and I believe this is empty 1. Yeah, empty 1. So empty 1, this is the camera's focus on empty 1. So it's at this number right now. If I move this, it's gonna focus all the way on the bat at 1, and if I remove this, it's gonna go all the way up to the one above it, which would be the book. So basically what I did, initially I had like a 2 camera setup. This is why this marker is down here, because I had another one that as the bat flew, it switched like right around here to that second camera. However, I couldn't get like a clean transition because that was the first time I had introduced a second camera into a Blender project like this before. So I couldn't quite get it smooth enough, so I decided, you know what, screw it. The premise is that this bat is changing into Carti anyway, so why doesn't it fly into the Book of Spells? And that's going to be like our transition point. So I went all the way back to the beginning, and I set the not the focal point, like the, I don't even know what it's called, like the point of interest, I guess, our main target as the book. So it's going to be 100% focused on the book the entire time. That's our main focus. So if I move this down, my computer just froze, sorry, but if I move that down, then it's gonna go fully focused on the bat. But I keep it all the way up, so it's all the way focused completely on the book, but then there's a little bit of this variation also on the bats, and as we get closer to the book, this goes completely 0, so that when we get to the hallway point, yeah, so like right at this point, we're pretty much, I didn't go completely to 0, I take that back, but you know, you can see it's fully on the focused on the book, like right around this point, because, or especially around this point, because the bat, it's losing the focus on the bat and it just goes straight to the book there. So basically the problem I was having was when the bat flew up and to the left, we were basically, camera was basically up here, but it was still focused on the book. It literally looked like this. Like this was where it ended. So that's why I decided to keep the bat going anyways. And then, you know, the gates obviously open up as the bat goes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I kind of want to touch on this part here. I think that's pretty much going to do it for this part of this little video series we got going on of our King Vamp / Playboy Carti animated thing that we got going on here. I finally came up with, I don't know if it's like going to be our end scene or whatever we're gonna call it, but I finally think I found our missing connection. That basically I have like this scene, a few other scenes, and then there's like this gray area that I want to connect to like the final scene, I guess. But I think I might have figured that out. We're gonna try it in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. As always, if you guys made it to this video and made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Let me know your guys' favorite like musicians, artists. I'm not going to do just music video stuff forever. It's definitely one of my favorite things to do right now, so I'm going to keep doing this. So if you have a favorite artist or something, I'll check out some music if I don't already know them. I have a list of artists and songs that I want to make stuff to, but it all comes down to how I feel in the moment. Anyways, I'm rambling. Thank you once again for watching. Have a great day. Peace.